I'm John. I'm serving 8 years for armed robberies and drug importation.
I'm Ray. I'm serving 5 years for fraud and deception.
I'm Brian. I'm doing 4 years for burglaries and thefts.
I'm Philip. I'm doing Her Majesty's Pleasure for murder.
I'm Les. I'm doing 10 years. Malicious assault, grievous bodily harm, actual bodily harm, and theft from GPO.
I'm Michael Selby. I am the newly appointed governor of Grendon. I hope to stay here for 7.5 years until I'm retired, which, with remission, will be about a thick end of a 10-year sentence.
Before I came here, Governor, the general impression amongst prisoners in various prisons up and down the country was that Grendon was a sort of a nut house, a funny farm, and so on and so forth. That's only amongst prisoners. You know, you either had to be a sex offender or a police informer to get to a place like this. What is the opinion amongst governors and amongst people in the Home Office?
Certainly my opinion of Grendon when I was a governor of Chelmsford Prison 10 years ago was pretty well the same. That it was precious, that we could never get anybody in, and if you did, they were highly articulate con men who didn't need to go there anyway. And I think one of my jobs as governor will, in fact, to educate the prison service about the reality of Grendon.
I often wonder about people who want to come and work in this type of system.
This is the one job I've ever wanted while working in the prison service. Yeah. I can remember visiting here in 1963 when it was all starting and thinking how exciting it was and how much I'd like to take part in it. So in that respect, coming here is a fulfilment of my ambition.
Hey, what is that?
You're on that, are you, or it was...
Yeah, it's like a time, isn't it? Yeah, I'll do that tonight. I'll see you Wednesday. Right, see you later.
Grendon, here in Buckinghamshire, is Britain's only psychiatric prison. And I am the first non-medically qualified person to be in charge. It's not like Broadmoor or Rampton. The 260 inmates are certainly not mad, but they do have very serious behaviour problems. Many are violent, some have committed bizarre, horrible crimes. They've all come as volunteers in order to undergo treatment. But this treatment involves the prisoner very much directly in his own therapy. They volunteer to come, and they can choose to leave here for other prisons if they fail at the treatment that is offered. It can be extremely stressful. In fact, it's one of the hardest forms of imprisonment that there can possibly be.
Are you just looking for another excuse?
I am not
your
looking for
behaviour?
excuses. No, but you're getting on to me. Why get on to me? Get on to that firm.
No.
Get on to the rest of them out there.
They're not here. And they're
I know they're
not
not here.
change. You
It's
are.
only because the law's working for them and they're doing it from a base outside of the country, outside of the 3 mile limit, that they're fucking getting away with it, man.
John.
You're mad. You're fucking mad.
You came here to change your behaviour.
I came here to change one small part.
You can't.
I know.
So stop blaming society and using society as an excuse for your behaviour.
I think I'm perfectly entitled to.
Then why are you here?
Because I need changing. Not for villainy.
So stop defending
hang on,
it.
not for villainy. If you remember rightly, I said why I come in, because I nearly done a geezer in. That's why I'm here. And I thought it was only one problem. Are you with me? I can't couple the two together now. I want to know why I kicked off. I thought there was something wrong with my head. I seem to be the only one that can see things as they are.
Where do your values lie with regard to your family, John?
First.
So, when you weigh up, in the end, which way you're going to go, I suppose it's fair that considering them will have a fair part in that decision.
The biggest part. There's no two ways about it.
So, no matter what your views are on society or big business in general,
or whatever,
the immediate effects of you doing what you do is felt by the people you do it to, all right? You yourself and your family.
I never thought that before, but I'm paying for it now.
It's true, isn't it, though?
It's very true. I'm paying for it now. I don't want to pay anymore.
Do you want your family to pay anymore?
No, I don't want my family to pay anymore either. And they're the ones that have been paying. I mean, I got some news on a visit on Saturday I was a bit depressed about. My lad's following exactly my footsteps. I can plot his life just as mine was.
And that makes you...
And he's gone into care now. He's had to go into care. He's a 6-footer. He's only 14, he's a 6-footer. And he's got the strength of a man. I'll wait the missus out. I'm 37 and I've spent about 9 years in the jail. All through the spectrum on the violence score. There was a particular incident in a local jail, and I went to empty my slot bucket one morning, and this fella started to empty his waste the same time as I've started to empty mine. And I've set about him. Because it was so cold and calculated, I can remember every single thing. The instant his head went back and hit the wall. The claret, the blood on the wall. And I was doing the man an incredible amount of damage in an incredible short space of time. What's up? I went to see the psychiatrist. I'm glad I was one of the few that managed to get here, because I believe that there is a long list. I sit in my cell at night and I think about the people that I've pointed a gun at. They must have been terrified.
So that in the long term, we're hoping that we can get his wife down for a family group, actually talk about his domestic situation, whether or not he can take on the responsibility of his marriage, and perhaps getting his son out of care.
And certainly when we got to talk about his wife, his family, that's really when his feelings started to come through.
And the effects on the lad.
Yeah, he's very concerned about that.
On the groups, they can get at you. And when you can't use what you normally use to get away from that sort of situation, i.e. violence, then you have to sit and talk. And it's harder to sit and talk than it is to fight. I'm frightened of them changing me, my personality, into something that I don't want my personality to be. I'm frightened of them changing my thinking, because apart from villainy, I consider my thinking right. On moral issues, I consider it right. Whether they do brainwash or not, I don't know. They've certainly got enough time, because I've seen ex-crooks talking like they were policemen. And that's just not right. You know, it's just not right.
You know, I'd just like to tell you a little bit what Grendon's done for me.
Yeah.
It's made me more honest. And I've informed the police of further crimes of what I've done, because that's been playing on my conscience all my life. And I think what I've done here is to release that, because I've been carrying it around on my back, and that's a part of why I re-offend.
One of the other wings within the prison is a YP wing, and a few months ago we had an attempted escape. The escape went wrong basically because a few other members of the wing who found out about it did what they call therapeutic feedback here, which we term usually as grassing.
Yeah.
And this really wasn't acceptable. We thought they'd done the wrong thing. But because of the system we have here and how we now reflect on what we should and should not do, we did say, yes, that was the right thing for them to do.
If there were a lot of escapes, do you have an investment in that there shouldn't be, because the regime would inevitably be a lot tighter? So, in fact, your sort of feelings about it are not absolutely pure, are they?
Both me and Phil was here when Beaver escaped from here. He's the only man to escape from here in 20 years. Now, prior to his going, there was an element of trust there where you could walk to work yourself. You could, you know, you was free within the, you know, the confines of the prison itself, like. And since Beaver went, it was a case of like shutting the gate after the horse had bolted, and security tightened up, and everybody felt it. In fact, there was a state of paranoia, whereas people felt that he was going to go to a conventional prison.
Yeah, I think a sense that Grendon lost its virginity, and this can be painful. The dilemma, therefore, is the whole time is how do you run a prison which is therapeutic, or a therapeutic community within a prison? There is a basic inherent contradiction in terms, which is, as governor, I've got to try and resolve. Staff shortages always affect therapy. Last year, there was a crisis, and now we're having to cope with officers being sent on detached duty to the London prisons. Is this the most protected part? Away from the wind?
I think so, yeah.
Surprisingly, perhaps because of its high staff ratio to inmates, Grendon costs about the same as a conventional training prison. We save, after all, by not having dog patrols, control rooms, and TV cameras.
He's just been devious, then. Illegal wiring.
I've taken back the video.
That's not supposed to be open, though. Is that one which has been sealed up?
No.
Pull them off.
No, if I pull them off, it was going to knock the video, wouldn't it?
We'll quite sure to take them off, and I wonder if it's...
Oh, no, it's good over.
A-wing is the most structured of our 6 wings. I'm told the inmates are called the therapeutons by the other wings. The wing therapist is a principal psychologist, Robin McPherson.
All our groups are staffed by officers. He's the basic treatment agent. He's the man who's in most daily contact with the prisoner, and to that extent he knows sides of him which I will not see, which other people don't see.
So this is some way away from the sort of the public image of a prison officer being a screw, banging up and slopping out. Are there any special processes of selection?
Well, there isn't any selection procedure. I think it's important that we have staff who have a caring attitude. But I think that that's something which people can develop here. And the notion of selecting people who want to have a therapeutic role is, I think, is slightly naive, because our experience is that people of that sort tend to get rather over-involved, and a certain distance is necessary.
Well, you're right,
All right, Alfred.
What are you up to?
Making a tin.
Making a tin? What are you going to do?
Put that on top, sand it down.
Well, they usually use matches, don't they? Have you gone off that?
Eh?
You've gone off matches?
Yeah, I've got my match tin up there. It's got the photos in it.
Now, what are you cutting it up with?
Pen. That's dumb, Joe.
When inmates first arrive here, they're amazed. They're suddenly sort of confronted by a man in uniform who's prepared to call them by the first name. As they sort of become used to the system, some blokes will take a great delight in baiting the staff. And there's sometimes these inmates here, I could throttle them. You know, there's no doubt whatsoever I could throttle them. They're like children, children in men's bodies. And you know, we often we're trying to get them to grow up, and it's sort of like pushing them through their adolescence. There are those who would try to keep you out of their cells. They'll try to frighten you, or they'll come a sob story or say that you're acting like some kind of a Nazi fascist thug, But of course, what they're doing is trying to keep you out of the cell so you don't find out what they're doing in there. And there are no no-go areas on this wing. And I certainly didn't set out to be either a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And a lot of this, the theory of it, either leaves me standing or I don't believe it. But on the groups, it's mainly common sense. You see, you won't find no magic answers, will you? You won't find a way where everything will be beautiful. You're going to have to cope with your sexual problems. You won't make them go away.
No, I don't expect them to go away. I hope to come to terms and be able to do something about it.
And how are you going to do that then? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm hoping that Grendon will help me come to terms with it and change perhaps my way of thinking and my attitude to life. My attitude to the sex angle.
Well, so what's your way of thinking and what do you think, you know, about it?
Well, as I say, I don't want sex with a man anymore, but I'm stuck in the middle. I haven't had sex with a man for a long time, and I haven't been with a woman either, and I can't relate to a woman in any way. I don't know anything about them. It's a totally alien thing to me. When I was gay, I could talk to women. I had lots of women friends. Now, I can't seem to get near them at all. I'm frightened of them.
What have we got today?
We had pizzas, fish fingers, curry, chips and peas.
The number of prisoners was increased from about 130 to 260. And there was some disquiet amongst members of the House of Lords who debated this. And in this debate, it was referred to as the jewel in the crown of the prison system. This view of Grendon we're extremely uncomfortable with. Is it hot?
I haven't tasted it.
You're waiting for me to burn my mouth. I know, I can see that look on your face. Okay, it's not bad. We would like to be part and parcel of the prison service and not seen as being distinct.
You can't afford the daily help.
No, no.
There's nothing there for you. Note.
I'm looking for things which can be a danger, personal weapons, razors. Somebody might be feeling very threatened and he might have made himself a weapon up. And I want them.
Not guilty.
Spare sheets and clothing. I mean, clothing can be altered so as it looks like civilian clothing in Escape. And we've all seen the films where a bloke's shinned down drain pipes using a knotted sheet, haven't we? Anything that they're not entitled to, I want.
No, that'll have to come down. That's got to come down.
I put that on there because it frightens the budgies.
Eh?
Because it frightens the budgies.
Well, it'll have to come down. This is
already.
it's a fire risk.
The staff, although they do torture, at some stage they have to turn back into a screw.
Yeah.
And they have to come and search your cells. I don't doubt, there's no question doubt in my mind that they don't want to do it, we don't want them to do it, but the penal system says they will have a cell search every fortnight, they get it. And they are to the letter, to the rule. Now that man, according to what I've been told...
My reaction to that is, thank goodness. I can sort of be a governor for a bit and say, well, thank goodness.
Yeah. I don't know what you took him off for in the first place.
Well, it has to be done, mate.
This is scandalous, this is.
Get used to it, like. You know.
But it's how it's fucking scandalous. It is, it's scandalous.
It's got to be done, Joe. We don't like
But why is it got to be done? If I was carrying anything dangerous, I certainly wouldn't put it in my clothing. I'd carry it internally, wouldn't I?
Well, we just say we don't particularly like doing it, but we have to do it.
I know, this is the problem. There's only you I can rev on. I'd like to know who makes a silly bloody rules, these nuts.
Right, stick your jeans on here.
I'm having to leave Grendon because an incident happened on the wing between me and another guy, where I ended up, hitting him. The inmates voted that I should be transferred because I committed an act of violence. So the decision then went from the inmates on the wing to the staff for the final decision. They're in there now, talking it over. Robbie and Dr. Barrett, he's the senior medical officer.
Unfortunately, on this occasion, he's not controlled his aggressive impulses. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that he came here, to actually to learn how to talk about his angry feelings as opposed to hitting out.
Yes.
I do feel that we've got to hold that.
Oh yes,
ground.
without any doubt, the line must be drawn there.
He wants to come back, and we're generally in favour of his returning. We see that as being quite a useful thing to do.
It's one of those cases that it could be considered appropriate for here, but there are so many that do come that we're dealing with more a control problem than an actual psychiatric problem.
Yeah. It's such a waste, you know, but because of my actions, I know that I have to go. I'm doing 5 years, 9 months for rape and theft, so I'm nearly at the end of my sentence now. It's not going to be very pleasant because I'm going to be banged up 23 hours a day again, and being here, I'm not locked up all day.
This is the second time I've been in Grendon. I came first 11 years ago. Yeah. I was on the YP, that's a young person's wing. But the other inmates voted me out. They couldn't take my crime, which is a murder. It took me 9 years to get back. I consider myself to be a human being. You know. When I came here, although I actually didn't think of it in those terms, I was acting a bit like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's up in the bell tower and he's talking to Esmeralda. And she's been very kind to him. And he says, well, I got the squint in my eye, I'm deaf, and I got a club foot, and I don't walk properly, and I've got a hunchback. Nature's been very unkind to me. Are you being so kind to me? Why? And he couldn't understand that. And I couldn't understand kindness when I came here. Well, came back here, I should say. Every other prison, the crime stands foremost. Like someone who's carrying a sandwich board, you don't really see who is carrying it. You see the board, but not the person. In here, everybody is encouraged to see the person, and not the crime. More capable of handling myself, I suppose, in a outside situation.
Yeah.
I just hope that they'll give me something useful.
Yeah. You find yourself more easy with women now, don't you?
Oh,
Talking
yeah.
to them?
Yeah. I used to be very embarrassed.
Yeah.
I've now been in 14 years. I'm 30 years old. I came in when I was 16. Now, with everybody else, with Les, Ray, John, Brian, if all goes well for them, then they'll go out the gate. But with a lifer, he moves on.
I've been trying to grab a hold of how I would see 14 years in prison, and that sort of shocked me in a way. That looking back of my life between the age of 16 and 30, development that I showed, and feeling, yeah, there's been extremely restrictive for you in terms of what was an extremely important part of my life. So I really was trying to absorb that.
You learn here to open yourself up to people. You learn to project what you're thinking, you know? And it's difficult moving on, knowing that you're so sensitive.
There should be a process of weaning you away from Grendon before you get to another prison. That in fact, you're quite right. that you might be quite badly hurt because you would try and discuss your hurt with staff who's untrained in the next prison and be looked upon as being mildly dotty. The prisoner who has been isolated on Rule 43 because of the nature of his offence, most of them are sex offenders, comes to Grendon and no longer needs to apply for protection. Other prisoners can tolerate him and help him to look at his crime and to discuss it, possibly for the first time.
I'm doing 8 years for rape. How it came about was I was living with a girl that was living a pretend sort of thing, just making my family think I was normal when I wasn't. I wouldn't tell them that I was homosexual. I was on Rule 43 at the beginning of my sentence. Then I went to Winson Green in Shrewsbury. While I was there, an incident happened which really changed me. While I was there, I got raped by 3 other inmates. It makes me see now what I actually done and how those people must have felt. And it doesn't bear thinking about now, because it must have been horrible for them like it was for me. Something I don't feel I could ever do again now, because now I know what it's like. I mean, I never even spoke about it till I came here. Nobody knew. I wouldn't even talk about it when it happened to me. I wouldn't talk to my best mates. I now feel that I do want a sex change. There's no doubt in my mind. I can't do nothing about it here. That's why I want to get out, because there's nothing they can do for me here concerning that. I need a psychiatrist who deals with that sort of thing, who knows what he's on about. He deals with that sort of thing every day. It's hard for me to understand some of the feelings I'm getting. I do feel in the wrong body, and it's hard for me to understand these feelings sometimes. They can't cope with homosexuality, they can't cope with transsexuals, bisexuals, you know, things like that, because they say it gets in the way of therapy. Like when I talked about on my group about it, I talked about wearing makeup all the time on the landings, wing meetings, groups, in my cell. We went into it quite a lot, and then they pointed out the effects it could have on people on the wing, that people could start to fancy you and one thing could lead to another, and things could get out of control. I brought my cosmetics with me, some makeup and stuff, which I snuck through reception, just in case they didn't let me have it. When I got on the wing, I was wearing this quite often, you know, a bit at the time, bit of blusher, bit of eyeshadow, pencil brown, and all that, and gradually I put more on each day so they wouldn't notice. And then one morning I got a cell search. It was pretty early. It must have been, you know, worked out what they were going to do. And they took my makeup and that. Because I said to them, I was more or less begging them not to take it. I said, when you go out that door, you're taking a part of me with you. I said, can't you see that? Can't you understand it?
There are times when we will need to do some work with the women in our lives. And it's very much more helpful if I'm not everybody's bad mother, rejecting girlfriend, who else have I missed out? Lover, deserted wife, okay? Now, and granny. That too, right.
I'd like to share the pleasure I feel in being invited into this group, because I feel a freedom to work with you as a group that I wouldn't be able to have on my own wing. And I thought
You're
I'd like
here
to
as
share
Lynn
that.
as opposed to the probation officer.
That's right, yes.
Okay. Anyone else? What about you? What would you like to share of yourself?
I feel odd having somebody involved who isn't aware of what I've done.
Do you want to tell her what you've done?
Yeah, but I'm
You'd
sort of
like to tell
scared
her? Huh?
I would,
But
I'm
you're scared to. Right.
For 2 years I sexually abused a girl between the ages of 8 and 10. And then when she was 10, I actually raped her. It was my common law wife's daughter.
This is the situation. This is the psychodrama. Huh? Okay, Mick, tell him why he should work.
Because I want it out of me. It's got to come out somehow or somewhere. And I want it out while I'm here, and rather again when I get out there.
You're in this chair. Come over here. Okay. I've been put in a few times and it hurts.
But it does. It's a terrible thing to be put in there. And,
Okay. Right, could you move out the way a second? Mick, get up a sec. Now, listen. We have a choice, okay?
no, I don't want it.
We can work today or not.
No way.
No?
No.
Okay.
Where'd you go? What are you afraid of?
I'd like this afternoon to give you a different mum. And I'm going to ask Lynn to be that mum.
What are you afraid of, Dale?
Contradicted.
I heard you were not this mum you won't punch your head in because she's the kind mum. Huh?
I know that.
Yeah? Because this mum doesn't need her head punched in, does she?
What can you say to someone that's kind?
What can I say to someone who's kind? Because usually I don't have people being kind to me. One of the beauties of psychodrama is that it can provide for you some of the things you've never had outside. We talk in psychodrama about having an act hunger, that we're so hungry for something, really hungry, that we go on and on and on, living our life patterns in search of it, okay, until we get it. And we might never get it. But psychodramatically, you can have that need met. In other words, you can, I know this isn't your real mum, but you can know what it feels like to be listened to be loved, to be cared for, and have someone who acknowledges your soft parts. Because they are part of you, aren't they? Okay? And I'd like you to have that hunger met.
No, it's what do you say?
I don't know what to say to her. Well, maybe you don't need to say anything. How about trying putting your head on her shoulder? Huh? Come on. Try that. See how it feels to be held by a mum. I can't. Can she hold you?
No, you brought out something that's too much out there.
Basically, at that point, I was the wicked witch who had ripped off the elastoplast, and I was going to do nothing, with him. And so Mick needed to go, the group needed me to go with him, because if they saw me leave him in the way he was, they weren't going to risk a psychodrama in the future. And the only way I could do it, which I think was the right way in which I did it, I got someone else, i.e. his wife Sylvia, to tell his mother what it was like for Mick. And as your wife, I wonder if you could tell me how Mick feels.
Torn apart.
Torn apart by what's happened to him?
By not being able to get answers.
And reasons why. Why does he need reasons and answers?
Well, he does not know why he was stuck in homes and why he was battered, abused. And why she thinks now that he's wrong, because he's never, always in and out of prison.
So, what he needs to know, Sue, is why he isn't loved, eh? Do you love him?
Yeah.
And what we went for was Mick's sadness, which is okay, because he needs to cry and he needs to get in touch with his hurt. And part of the problem is he transforms that into anger. Things have to be said in this family. Things have to be said for Mick. Mick can't say them anymore, because it puts him into areas which are too painful and too frightening. So you are the lady he loves, and you love him, and you're going to say it for him. All right? Sylvia. Right. You look great. Right, make sure that's it. You just keep your mouth closed. She's listening, Sylvia.
Why don't you tell me why you stuck him in the homes? It's not a lot to ask. Why don't you tell him and all why you treat him? And why are you such an old wet bag?
Reverse roles. You're not Nick, you're Mum. Get into the roller.
You're asking a lot here.
I know. Right, okay? Now, you're going to try and answer Sylvia. Okay? If you haven't got an answer, you say so. Let me tell you, son.
Because I never have.
Yeah, I know you haven't, but why haven't you ever?
Don't like him.
Yeah? Yeah, but that's not the point. Why can't you say? It sounds as if you regret what you've done.
I don't want to show that regret, probably.
You don't want to show that regret. So I said to him, do you know, I got this amazing thought that I'd like to see you with your son. I said, because I'd like to get an idea of what kind of good dad you are.
You got to be good when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, tell him. God, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning with this little blighter. Do you know that? Tell him.
Yeah.
Is he good at night for you, Mick?
No, it's terrible.
So there they both were, talking about their babies together. And Mick said something like, what a lovely baby was. And I said, what are you going to do for him? He said, well, I'm going to give him everything. I'm going to give him love and understanding and make sure he gets what I didn't. So it was a nice finish. But we still have to come back to his anger.
Yes, it's a bit overpowering, isn't it?
Reconviction rates at Grendon are said to be no lower than at a conventional prison. But that is not the way to measure Grendon's success, which is helping men with serious personality problems and taking the disturbed and difficult out of the prison system.
Go on then.
Well, success varies. I think there are people who come into prison for extremely violent crimes, people who come in for various sex offences. Now, if one of those comes back to prison for a different type of offence, and if an armed robber comes back to prison for shoplifting, fine. It's not much fun for the people that he's stolen from, but it's a lot better than having your head kicked in. And so, again, it's a question of degree.
Come on, my boy.
Yeah. I'll see you in the morning. Yeah, I'll see you in the morning. Bert. Right, mate.
Come on, my boy.
Yeah, good night.
You all right? See you in the morning, son. Yes. Where's young Jerry? And young Jerry. You're up. You're in there. What are you doing, hiding? Come on, my boy. What are you hiding?